not supposed to hit the button. And oh, that's the long one. We don't want that one. Let's stop and start over. There we go. There's the
You're
bumper.
listening to the Two Tongues Podcast. And now your hosts, Kyle and Chris.
Amateur hour, Kyle.
Getting the bloopers on this episode.
Amateur hour. And guess who's not editing it out?
Fuck editing.
You guys are all going to hear that mistake.
Editing is weak.
Editing is for the birds.
Editing is for people who aren't like proud to roll with what they're doing, you know?
Yeah.
Like we're just putting it out, editing.
Mm.
Get out of here. What is this, a professional TV show?
Editing is for people who make mistakes, Kyle. We don't do that.
Would you have any interest in making like fictional TV show type content?
I hadn't thought about it, but tell me more.
I don't know. I just like I'm just like gauging the type of things that you would be interested in making. I don't know. I don't have any ideas to make like a TV show or anything like that.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how do we turn this podcast into a fictional. We could just pretend to be different people, play characters, and make up everything we say is made up.
Yeah, we could be like that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Like just like a fictional conversation.
Yeah. It's funny because I turn your mic up because I feel like there you go.
It's like weak.
Oh, you got to tighten up the hatches. What do you call them?
We got to batten down the hatches.
You got to batten down the hatches. Yeah.
I think I'm good.
Okay. Anyway, I watched this video today. Maybe like half of it. It was a totally AI video where they trained one AI to be a socialist and one to be a capitalist, and then they had them debate each other, and then they had a bunch of the various AI large language models give them a score after each round, and it was maddening. But it was interesting, but it was maddening. Even the capitalist side of the argument, even the AI that they trained to make the arguments, which he was doing a decent job. The AI was doing a decent job of. He would say things like this. He's the guy that is arguing for capitalism, and he says, despite capitalism's many inherent flaws, X, Y, and Z, like even the capitalist AI was woke as shit and didn't want to be there, didn't want to be arguing that, in favor of capitalism.
So, who were the two? Was it two separate AI companies?
Well, they didn't tell you what AI generated the dialogue. They only showed you the score that each AI gave each round.
Gotcha.
So they would assign a score. That's how they were keeping track of which side was winning.
Okay.
But like I said, the capitalist bot was just continuously
like
besmirching himself. Yeah. And they brought up this idea of like they kept the socialist guy kept emphasizing how important democracy is. And the whole time I'm thinking like, man, I don't know about this, but he was talking about democratizing the labor, democratizing the workforce. And the argument he was making is that the rank and file people that make all the widgets don't get to make any decisions with what the widget company does. And I'm like, why in the world would you want the freaking, laborers making decisions about business strategy and how to whether they're going to reinvest their earnings and how they're going to like what in the world? But the argument there seems to be that this is what the lefties want. The lefties want the rank and file people to have a certain say. They won't put a number, of course, on that, but a certain say in the direction of the company and the decisions of the company. And then, of course, also they criticize the guy that owns the company who makes
too much money,
300 times the average salary of a worker. So the workers, they want the workers to make more money and to be able to make the decisions of the company. What do you think of this, man? Is this a thing? Like, is this a new idea to you, or have you heard this?
Wait a minute. What are you asking me? Have I heard of communism before?
This idea of democratizing corporations, businesses.
Yeah, I've definitely heard about stuff like that before.
And because democracy is good.
Yeah.
Clearly, it would be good if we extended it to every situation.
Yeah. It's like the opposite thinking of what I think a lot of people are doing with Trump. Like Trump, they're like, he's a businessman. He's going to run it like it's a business, which I wish that they would let him do.
Yeah.
But it's like parallel. It's not I don't know if it's parallel or not, but Yeah, it's happening at the same time, so it's parallel. Yeah, but it's like the inverse, you know, like they just want to make everything group decisions. And I personally, I'm just like, look, make Trump in charge of everything, and just like that's it. What he says goes,
Yeah.
and that's it.
In 4 years, we'll pick another guy.
Yeah,
and he can do that too.
and if things get really bad, we'll revolt. You know, like we'll like flip the whole board over. But until then, I just man, I this is like we're getting
right in there.
Yeah, we're getting heavy right off the gate. I don't, you know,
just gonna wade into the deep waters with you. Let's do it.
I just don't. Yeah, man, everything since the beginning of this term is a lot of good stuff is kind of happening, but I feel like it's kind of a charade a little bit. I feel like it's not as good as a lot of people are making it. And I want some actual good things to happen. And yeah, I don't know, man.
What do you think of the big beautiful bill?
I don't know. I didn't read it. I'm not, you know, I didn't fucking read it.
I asked you that question and I didn't read it either.
Yeah. I know that some of the people in Congress that I tend to agree with more than others were opposed to some things in it. Thomas Massey, for one.
Yep.
But also, that's also like, you really can't, like, Thomas Massey's against like every bill, basically, you know? So like nothing would ever happen, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that maybe a few years ago when I was a little bit more libertarian, maybe I would have thought that was a good thing.
Yeah.
You know? But now I don't really feel that way. Now I feel like if we're not getting stuff done, we're failing and we're just going to lose and they're going to get back in power. And honestly, I feel like one of the sides is going to do some shit. Like 100%, we're at a point where someone's going to do something that pisses the other side off pretty fucking bad at this point. Yeah. And I would rather it was my side, 100%.
Yeah, that's interesting because as you're talking, I'm remembering shout out to my buddy Dave that I used to work with, who introduced me to libertarian politics when I was like 20 years old.
Yeah.
Was influential for me. Shout out to Puddin', that's what we call him. Puddin'. He used to say, it's a good thing that the party that has the presidency and the party in control of Congress are different. He's like, if we can't have a libertarian utopia, I'd rather have gridlock than anything else. Like, let's have the various parts of our government opposed to each other, so nothing ever gets done. Because if that happens, the status quo was back then. This would have been like the early 2000s. Status quo was pretty goddamn good, socially and politically. If we just kept doing what we were doing, I think most people were pretty happy. But that's not the case now. It's like gridlock now is super risky. It's like I worry about it. Yeah, like if things don't change, we're headed for disaster.
Yep.
So what do you do in that situation?
I don't know, man. I hope that the people in charge know and that they're doing it, because we're getting super heavy. Like this is not. I don't know. This is definitely a heavy turn right at the beginning. But yeah, I don't. Been like looking into like Rwanda.
Yeah.
Or no, I'm sorry, not Rwanda. Rhodesia is what I meant to say. And just like everything that's happening in South Africa right now, I almost said South America. I can't talk. I'm just like all over the place. South Africa. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just feel like the way things are going, we need to be careful. You know, we got to be careful. Otherwise, you see the thing that happened with Trump and the South African president in the White House, the Oval Office.
I wish I saw the whole thing. I didn't. I just saw the clips that people were showing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch
of Trump forcing this guy to watch this clip.
Yeah.
And that was the clip where they were showing the crucifixes all along the road, and is that what he was showing them? And every crucifix was for a dead farmer,
dead white farmer. Yeah, and it was the video where they're in the arena, so there's like some political rally, and they're chanting, "Blah, blah, kill the boer, kill the farmer." I've been doing that all week. I've been doing it to my dog. Every time I walk into the room, I'm like, "Kill the boer." He's like,
"Yeah, that's so funny."
Just like he's sleeping. He's got his head down. Just like wakes up to me doing that.
And this is I don't know if this is propaganda or if this is true, but I heard that the president of South Africa had been publicly saying that these things weren't happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets confronted on a national stage in front of the president of the United States with the fact that he's a liar.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Oh no, you're good.
I was just going to say, when I got back from my grandfather's memorial, I dropped my dad off and at my grandmother's house. So I'm engaged in a political conversation in like the 5 minutes that I'm there before I get back in the car and finish the third leg of my. It was like a 9-hour drive.
With who?
That stretch was just me.
No, but who are you engaged in this political?
With my grandmother.
Okay, gotcha.
And so for those people who don't know, my grandmother is a staunch Democrat and was raised by Roosevelt Democrats. And,
you said she was raised by Roosevelt. I was like, whoa, I didn't know that.
And my father and my grandfather are the opposite. They're Republicans. My grandfather's an entrepreneur. And so they have very, very different attitudes. So, and then so the uncles also, one is conservative, one is very liberal. So anyway, like Thanksgivings at family events are pretty tense. Yeah. In fact, I'm going off the rails telling you a different story, but I discovered that I had 3 aunts that I didn't know about, and I met one of them at this memorial. So my grandfather was just out there
slinging it.
He was just out there laying his seed wherever it happened to fall, and happened to fall into a couple ladies. So we have these aunts that I didn't know about, and I don't know why did I start telling you this. Because I asked her politics.
Yeah,
just straightforwardly, like at our first meeting, because I wasn't trying to argue with her, but I just wanted to know whose team was she on. Like, where's she going to fall in the family dynamics here? Turns out she's a Democrat. So anyway, we have a mix. So I'm talking to my grandmother briefly, and my mom's like, "Don't talk politics. We only get to see you for a minute," and she's right. I shouldn't have done it, and I tried to pull myself away from it, but it just kept happening. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where to put my phone here. So she brings up the South African thing, and she brings it up to me like she's expecting me to say, "Yeah, it's ridiculous. That's not really happening." Point is, my grandmother is a lifelong Democrat, and race issues have always been important to her. And the fact that she's totally supportive of the refugees, of protecting the refugees and letting them come here, right?
Yeah.
She's perfectly supportive of all of that.
Not the white refugees.
But the moment the refugees are white people,
Whitey,
my grandmother was against it.
yeah.
And I wanted to argue with her. I wanted to sink my teeth into that so bad. Like, I wanted to get a big grip of hypocrisy, you know what word I'm trying to say, hypocrisy in the back of her neck and shake it out of her. I cannot believe that she has that
It's a very
opinion.
aggressive metaphor.
Yeah, well, what do you do in this situation? Now, my grandmother married a black man.
Oh.
And I'm sure she suffered for it from both sides, from the black family and from our family. I'm sure she suffered for it. She's got a reason to be sensitive about race relations. It's important to her because of her politics. I just could not believe that somebody who's this bleeding heart, open arms, all the refugees, is convinced that it's not really happening to these white people. And the fact that we would take them, the fact that we would take these refugees into the United States is racist. And she believes it. She believes that there's no reasonable reason for us to accept these South African refugees.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're letting them in, these white ones in, while we're threatening to round up all the brown ones and get them out of here. Yeah. That's super racist of us. And all the nuances are just lost on her. And I don't know. I could not have that conversation. I wasn't allowed. I didn't have the time. So I just had to put it in my pocket and leave. But clearly you're still baffled.
Worked up about it.
I'm baffled, man.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think I guess they believe that it's literally just not happening, that it's a lie. I guess they believe that it's 100% a fabrication, because what else what else would we be saying here? Like that people, I don't know. I just don't understand what the alternative. There are white people. There are some white people dying, but it's just not as many as we say. Is that what they're saying? What is either people are dying or they're not dying?
Either people are dying or they're not dying.
Either people are either the white farmers are getting killed by the black Africans or they're not getting killed by the black Africans. Which one is it? Trump and the people who are in power right now are asserting that the white Africans are getting killed by the black Africans. So if you can prove that that's not happening, then do that. I'm happy to see you do that. I would be glad to know what is really happening. I always like to know what's really happening.
Right.
So if you can show me that what's really happening, please do. Otherwise, it looks to me like what Trump is saying is true. So I'm going to believe that. And you just saying that it's not happening is not convincing to me.
It's hard to explain how so many of these white African boors, I don't know, is that a derogatory term?
I don't know if these people are boors. I think that boors is specific to, well, I guess they're calling them that in the chant, but you know how like those terms get weird?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Where was it going with that, Kyle? I'm going to have to circle back to that. When was I? Oh, I did want to say I was listening to a podcast, and if we talked about this already, stop me, because we may have. And I can't remember if it was Jordan Peterson, but I think it was, where he had somebody on from South Africa, maybe it was a politician, talking about the history and talking about the current social environment.
Yeah.
And he was saying lots of interesting things, like the black populations that live in South Africa now. Do you know what the tribe is? I can't remember.
I don't. Yeah, no, I don't know off the top of my head.
I can't remember if they're like Zuni. I don't know what they are, but they're not from South Africa.
Yeah.
And the native South Africans that were there in the 1600s when the Dutch people settled there were the Bushmen, the San, and there's another San is one, but there's another, I can't think of it, but they just call them Bushmen. These like diminutive little, they're very distinct from the rest of the population in Africa. In fact, they're the ethnologically oldest group in Africa, with the oldest languages. They've been there for a long time. They're closer related genetically to East Asians than they are the Northern African tribes. That's how fucking old these people are. And they were living kind of in sparse populations for the most part in a tribal way, how people live in a tribal way. You can't have giant communities living the way they live. So that's how they lived forever and ever. And then the white people show up and they establish farms and mostly what was unoccupied land. Yeah. Now, I'm sure the truth is that there's probably I don't know if they were herding or hunting, but certainly that land, they're passing through that land that's now become farm. So there's probably some harm done, certainly to the way of life of the Bushmen, but they don't fucking live there anymore. They're almost completely gone. Yeah. And the ones that have trouble with the white settlers there, who've been there for 400 years, by the way, are these tribes from up north that have moved down into the south into land that is not historically their land. Yeah. But that's the argument they're making. This is our land. This is black African land for black people, and the white people they don't belong here. They should leave.
Yeah. I don't know. Why should they leave?
Well, that's obviously a very racist argument to make. It's hard to defend. By Western standards, it's hard to defend that, Africa's for black people and white people don't belong and should leave. Yeah. It's hard to defend that argument, especially when these farmers have been there. They settled and built the state, the infrastructure, everything that they did, and they've been there for hundreds of years. Yeah.
You'd think that they might have earned the right to be there at that point.
Yeah. It's the politics of resentment, man. And I know, and I don't want to take us off the path too much, but I did want to say that earlier when I was talking about the AI video of the socialist guy arguing with the bot. That was the capitalist bot. Everything that came out of the mouth of the socialist, every argument and by the way, these aren't the only arguments out there, but these are the ones that are prominent online, where they're pulling where they're training the AI. It's the politics of resentment, man. Every single argument that comes out of the socialist bot's mouth is something, they're upset that they don't have the things other people have. And so we have to force everyone to share and give it to the other people. It's a very, very slippery slope, man. It is the politics of resentment. And that's exactly what I see demonstrated in this issue in South Africa. A bunch of people that worked hard and paid sweat and lives to build what they built. And they have a quality of life that is unparalleled in sub-Saharan Africa. And now the people who haven't created it want it for themselves.
And, South Africa had the dreaded apartheid, it's a really bad version of racial segregation. Like, we had the Jim Crow laws here. It's like Jim Crow on steroids, apartheid. And that's not good. That's not great. But since apartheid has fallen and these black South Africans have had more power, South Africa is like a shithole, like there are some nice parts of South Africa still, but like, I don't know if it's the majority. I don't know what the percentages are, but I know that a lot of parts of South Africa are not particularly safe places to be. And that wasn't the case earlier,
Do you know any of the history, like the political history?
A little bit.
Like I guess I'm curious, like, because I look at things like some of the academic books that I've read in the past will reference like Witwatersrand University and places in South Africa that seem to be like I don't know, comparable to like the South African version of a Harvard or a Cambridge or something like that. And so it seemed to me like at some point historically, South Africa was, a first world country. Am I wrong?
I think parts of Africa there were, definitely they were up there.
What happened?
Well,
if you don't know, but I'm just curious.
No, like I said, I don't know why I said Rwanda. That's a different. What happened in Rwanda?
Was that the Tutsis and the Hutus? And
was that what that was?
I don't know, man.
Okay, but it was Rhodesia is what I meant to say. Rhodesia. It's interesting. The Rhodes Scholars. You heard about that scholarship thing that's started by a guy named Cecil Rhodes. He was a British feller, very enterprising British feller.
Yeah.
And basically he founded Rhodesia, not even like for England. He just like kind of went down there and did it basically,
Really?
Yeah. He like started this like kind of privateering colony, kind of like they had high standards to get in, you couldn't be a part of it. You had to like I said, meet certain standards. And they took over this part of Africa and made something like really nice, really special out of it. And it was controlled by the minority population of white British people who lived there. And they were supported. They were a separate country, but they were supported by Great Britain. They had good relations with the West, like they fought in World War II, maybe World War I and II, I think. It's like they were allies with all the Western powers. And then when after, I don't know if it was the Cold War or when it was exactly, I forget the time point, but at a certain point, it had to have been after World War II at some point, because Great Britain started feeling this pressure to get rid of their colonies, to like offload all of the colonies they had. And they were, getting pressure to like end any kind of support for Rhodesia. And they told Rhodesia, you have to like give up the control of the government. And Rhodesia said, no, we're not going to do it. So there was a war. And yeah, it's just like bad stuff, like
a war between
tons of the Black Africans died, it's just, I'm sorry, what were you going to ask?
A war between the local population and
between the Black Africans who lived there and the Rhodesians, the white Rhodesians.
The British weren't involved in this conflict.
No, not really. Right. Yeah. Interesting. Like the entire West basically like turned their back on Rhodesia, just let them die, let them They didn't all die, but a lot of them did, obviously.
Boy.
So, I mean, it's like I mean, what happened there? Why is It's what? Do you know what Rhodesia is now?
No.
What country it is? It's Zimbabwe, and it's like notoriously not good. You know, so I don't know. What's the pattern? What's the pattern to recognize here?
We're not allowed to say.
No, you're not allowed to say it.
Not allowed to think it.
No. I mean, it's like what are some other countries in Africa that used to be like have heavy European? There's like a few of them.
Yeah,
the Ivory Coast, I think, used to be like a French kind of colony.
I saw this old photo the other day on while I was just searching the news feed, and it was some rich family in Africa somewhere. I don't know where. Just looking at a photo, but it was like a black and white photo of like a family sitting down, dressed in European clothes, looking all, fancy, and standing behind them with the rest of the family is one of their slaves. And she's naked. She's standing there, just tits out, naked, and they're all dressed in their finery, seated in their thrones, but just clearly some wealthy, rich. I don't know. If I had to guess, I would say probably a slaver of some kind who made a shitload of money selling, and being involved in the African slave trade, but a black African. And it was so strange to see the black African family, clearly wealthy, with their own black slaves, wearing the European clothes, all fancy and decked out. It was strange, man.
Very weird.
Never hear about that. You never see those photos. It was interesting. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, that's the case going way back, like the white European people got the slaves from were not white people. There wasn't like white people who had already gone to Africa and set up slave stores. No, they were getting them from black Africans.
It's so funny because I don't know what image you had in your head, but I feel like this is not an uncommon perspective. When I was a kid and I learned about this, I just imagined white people pulling up on a boat, running out with a net, throwing it around a bunch of black Africans and dragging them onto the boat. Like, that's not what happened, man.
Yeah. No,
these ships pulled up to a port and were dealing it with money with some native black person who's selling off other black people. I heard that it was super common in certain parts of Africa because of the competition between tribes and families. So if you had a trouble with your neighboring tribe or family, that one of the easiest solutions to that problem is to sell them into slavery. And then guess what? They're not your problem anymore. And guess what? All their land is now available. Yeah. And this is what they were doing to each other.
It's pretty genius move, really.
Oh man, boy.
Strong negotiating tactic.
Yeah. Golly. There was something else, but I'm having trouble remembering it. It was something that like psychologically that changed in like Western society at some point that
started making people gay.
That started making people being able to get over those sorts of family and tribal feuds because they had like a higher identity, like a religious identity or national identity.
Yeah.
And that you need something like that for a people to stop fighting so much with each other.
What could we make? What could we do? What could we choose to be that thing?
I don't think there's a better one than religion. Because it has the potential of unifying everybody under one identity. It has that potential. I don't know what else does.
Yeah.
But the question is, if there's places like Sub-Saharan Africa where the development has been hindered by all kinds of things, corruption and all kinds of things, like permanently hindered, is it the case that if they had a grand unifying narrative, if they had an identity that was greater than the tribe, that would allow them to stop fighting amongst themselves? Like, is that what's missing that has prevented the development of Africa, where the rest of the world is done over the last, several hundred years? Like, is it something so simple as that? And if it is, what's preventing that? Like, I get that Africa has more languages and more religions than anywhere on earth. Is that it? Is that the reason? You know, that there's so many conflicting ideologies everywhere you look that nobody, you know, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. What do you think, Kyle?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Because I'd like to know. I mean, Africa is in a lot of ways like South America. You know, it's got tremendous natural resources. It's got gold, it's got diamonds, it's got lumber, it's got, you know, all kinds of things that are valuable. It's got wide open spaces and lots of opportunity.
Yeah. Well, that's why China's there. That's why China's, you know, and yeah, first of all, okay, I think in regards to the white immigrants and the Black Americans who hate it here, I think that we should set up like an exchange program. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I really mean this. I'm not saying this to be funny. I really mean that. Like, if you don't like it here, if you think it's a racist country, go to South Africa and we'll switch you with a white South African. And they can come here, you can go there. And there's no takebacks, though. You don't get to come back.
Yeah.
You're fucking there, and that's it. If you can afford a ticket and come back, then you can come back. But we're not fucking flying you back. You took the deal. You fucking stay in South Africa.
Yep.
Enjoy. Have fun with that. You know, I don't think you're going to. I saw a video, this TikTok of this Black girl. She's in Africa. She's like, I don't fucking like it here.
No.
She was like, it sucks.
Yeah.
There's bugs everywhere. So yeah. No, go get out of here and trade us for people who are like demonstrated to be, they're farmers, you know, like they're productive people.
Yeah.
So I'll take them.
In fact,
happy to trade.
That was one thing that I learned on that podcast too, is that the South African farmers, they're not just successful farmers. They're the best farmers on earth.
Yeah.
No, like they literally are. They manage water better than they have strategies that they've developed that are unique to them that makes them the best farmers on earth.
Oh yeah, man.
And those are the ones you want to murder and take their land? Good. Now you have the land. What are you going to do? Like, it's just nuts, man.
Yep.
And that's another thing about resentment, man. It's like, and this is the problem with all these goddamn communists and these agitators.
Yeah.
They have nothing better to replace the systems they criticize. Nothing. This is an argument Jordan Peterson makes. Now, this is not my own argument, but it's so true.
Yeah.
You're going to criticize capitalism and offer nothing. You're going to, you're going to criticize, what do they call the, I can never think of the goddamn word. Imperialism, colonialism. Like, I'm trying to think of what word it is. You want to criticize that, but there's a lack of gratitude about what good things came about as a result of that. It's like, it's all bad.
I think, honestly, we should get back to colonization, man. I think we should let's start planting the flag. You know what I'm saying? And if we are holding it, then fuck you. It's ours. I don't care if the Native Americans were here. We have America. If you can get us off of America, you can have America. How about that? How's that work for you? I just don't like this getting sensitive and like being like, oh yeah, we shouldn't have done that to the Native Americans. No, it's manifest destiny. Like, it's straight up. We took it because we could, and we made something with it that they didn't. And they weren't innocent. They were slaughtering each other before we got here. And that's human nature. We took it. We're holding it. And if you can take it from us, then okay. Until then, I think we should take South Africa. Let's colonize South Africa.
Now, this is interesting because this idea is called right of conquest. And I don't know if that's like a Middle Ages idea or how far back that goes. But, like manifest destiny is one of those ideas. Mm-hmm. The divine right to rule, the divine right of kings, is one of those ideas.
I feel like those ideas are a lot older than the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
I feel like those are just kind of, honestly, I feel like those are just kind of like the fact of nature. Like, like when you boil everything down to the simplest form, I just feel like look, I have this right now. And if you can take it from me, then you can. But if you can't, you can't.
Let's do the pros and cons list for right of conquest. Let's do that. So I get it that if I have might makes right. If I have the power to come and conquer you, and so, according to nature, I have the right. because I can, right? That's it. It's what it boils down to. But then you have places like Israel, Gaza, where the right of conquest is not respected. And that also seems inevitable. But let's say you have a society that is greater for one reason or another that allows it to conquer another society. As long as they can hold that society, as long as they're superior and they have a way of holding it, then it's their right.
Yeah.
And the moment they lose it, they don't have that right anymore. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I'm just thinking this out because practically, of course, that makes sense in a Hobbesian sort of way. Can't argue with that. But I do feel like the resistance element is sort of inevitable.
What do you mean? Like eventually someone is going to oppose your rule? Yeah.
Somebody from within, like
I don't understand how that is really an argument against the system, though, because I feel like that's true of pretty much everything. Like, change the system and eventually there's going to be somebody who like doesn't agree and rises up against,
I guess I'm thinking about this through the lens of resentment again. It's like if somebody conquers you and makes your life better in myriad ways, builds up the economy, the infrastructure, clean water, things you didn't have before, safety, things you didn't have before, all this sort of all this sort of stuff. They conquered you, but they gave the people on the land all of this. On one side of the coin, you're oppressed. Your land is being ruled over by someone that doesn't belong. Like, all these arguments also resonate with me to some degree. But it also seems to me supremely ungrateful and resentful that your life has been improved in all these ways, and you're willing to wreck the whole thing because I don't get to be in charge, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. I am, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm resistant to even calling them oppressed, to be honest with you. It's like, yeah, the people who were in charge of your country fucked up and they're not in charge anymore. And now we're in charge. But I feel like if we raised your quality of life, like pretty much significantly in all areas, then you're not oppressed. Like, we made your life better. So I don't want to hear that you're oppressed. I don't particularly, even if you feel like you're oppressed, I don't particularly care. That is not like of great concern to me that you feel as though you are oppressed.
Yeah. You think that's inevitable, though, that people will feel like they're oppressed?
Maybe.
Like, it has to boil down to identity, because it's like, if the people that were in charge, if I saw them as the same as me, it's hard. I guess the oppression narrative is still there. Then it becomes a communist class narrative. Man, it's like you can't get rid of it.
Yeah, I don't know. As far as like all of that stuff that kind of got us in, the Trump in the Oval Office is what got us into it.
Yeah.
I like that he did that.
Yeah.
I do wish that he and more people who are like rah-rah about South Africa would be maybe a little bit more rah-rah about the United States of America and the racial issues here, because I feel like a lot of conservatives are really bad on like a lot of this, like Shiloh Hendricks, all the black and white racial tension in America right now. I feel like a good portion of conservatives are bad on it. I mean, a lot of them are pretty good on it too. Some of them are pretty good on it too, but a lot of them are not.
What are the arguments they're making that you say that you characterize as bad on it?
It's just like you shouldn't say the N-word. It's like, that's a mean word to say. So it's wrong of her to say that. So giving her money is wrong, and if you gave her money, you're a racist. And yeah, fuck you. I don't really care. I mean, we've beaten this to death. I don't care if you called me a racist. I'm happy for you to think I'm a racist. That's fine. So yeah, no, I just don't I don't really have any time for any of these conservative commentators who are on the wrong side of that.
Yeah.
And get fucked.
Listen, it's not a polite thing to say. especially if you say it in context that's explicitly derogatory towards an individual.
Yes.
Or whatever. It's
Yeah.
not a polite thing to say.
So is calling someone a stupid fucking asshole,
Exactly. There should be no distinction. It's just impolite. It's not,
And sometimes people earn being called a stupid fucking asshole,
Yeah.
I told you the other day I was driving and I was making a left turn. I had an arrow, so there's no way they had a turn, there's no way they had a walking signal.
Mm-hmm.
So I was turning and I just started going because I had a green arrow, and there's this guy walking across the street, even though he doesn't have a walking signal. I almost ran this fucking guy over. Like, it was real fucking close.
Yep.
And he's just going because I need to cross the street now. I'm going to go. I don't care if there's a signal or not.
Yep.
That guy deserved to be called a stupid fucking asshole.
Yeah.
And he was a black guy. So did he deserve to be called the N-word? I guess, yeah. Like, it's the old Chris Rock bit, like, which one was he being? Like, if we break down the Chris Rock bit, you got black people, you got N-words.
Mm-hmm.
Which one was that guy being, who was crossing the street because he wanted to cross the street regardless of the fact that there's anybody else on the fucking planet aside from him? Which one was he being? He was being a stupid fucking asshole, and he deserved to be called that. So, like, if you are now, again, this kid's 5. So I don't know. I'll admit that I would be hesitant to call even a little kid a stupid fucking asshole.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't do that, but I really don't care that much that she did. Like, we'll just use stupid fucking asshole as a stand-in for what she called him.
Yeah.
Because, like we said, it's basically the same thing.
Yep.
So yeah, I wouldn't probably call a 5-year-old kid that, but it depends too. Like, maybe I would, and I don't feel bad about her doing it. I just don't care.
Yeah. I want to understand how the N-word became a landmine. Because that didn't happen by accident. That was orchestrated. Mm-hmm. There's just no reason in the world that a word should have that kind of power,
Yeah. Well, I feel like the N-word has all that power, but I do feel like there's just this kind of resentment. Like, hey, so it's been a theme of the episode.
Resentment.
There's this resentment among black people for white people, just kind of in general. And I feel like it's at a fever pitch right now. I've even seen it in real life. I was at the grocery store the other day. Excuse me, I've got like indigestion. I was at the grocery store maybe a week ago. And there's this, I was going like this way. There was this daughter and her mom. This girl was like, she was a little girl. She was like 9, maybe 8, 9, somewhere in there. That we're both kind of like walking through the store, and there's this black girl who's coming this way. She works there. And the mom says to the little girl, she's like, "Come on, let's keep it moving, sister." And the black girl hears that, and she's like, "Who says that?" Like she was like offended. I don't know if it's the sister thing.
Yeah, geez.
And she was like, I heard it, and me and this daughter and mother were like pretty close together. So like she had to have heard it. And there's nothing else that she could have possibly been talking about. So yeah, I guess she was just offended that this woman called her daughter sister. Like, she thinks that sister, like brother and sister, are like black terms.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I wanted to say something. I like honestly did, but I didn't. I just like was like, I'm gonna get my shit and get out of here. But I wanted to be like, shut the fuck up.
You have to train a person to react that way. And somehow that's what we've done. There's no, I mean, what a ridiculous thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like super irritated.
Yeah. I had that same thing happen to me. I'm gonna forget the details of the conversation, but it was in a professional workplace where I worked, and I think I might have told the story before. Yeah. But there was this one lady there, older black lady. She was fine. I liked her fine, plenty. But I said something one day, and I said something like "you people," and she. But what I was referring to was the people in the office, not it was something like that.
Not the blacks.
No, not in any way. And she immediately thought that's what I had said, and like tried to put me on the spot. First of all, she's like a 50-something-year-old woman. I'm a 20-year-old kid, and she makes inflammatory. It makes it a spectacle in the office. It was. And
Oh, really?
Yeah,
It was that bad?
it was that. Well,
I thought maybe she just said something to you, but she like made an issue of it.
yeah,
Huh?
it got loud and demanded I explain what I mean.
Yeah. Okay.
And well, luckily I was, I wasn't doing anything wrong, and I explained to her what I meant and made her look like a fool. And
I almost feel like
defused it.
I almost feel like you're lucky you were able to do that. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
I feel like that was early. That was like, I feel like had that been like maybe 5-10 years later, you might not have been able to get out of it.
Yeah.
You might have lost your job.
Yeah.
But who knows, man.
Before we get off this resentment topic, there was another example of this that I saw this morning. I was doing what I do many weekend mornings. I was just watching. I was just watching YouTube little YouTube videos in the morning, waiting for everyone else to wake up.
Yeah, I know what kind of YouTube videos you're talking about.
And then one of these Charlie Kirk videos popped up, so I click on it.
That is not what I'm watching.
This was just like every Charlie Kirk video.
Yeah.
And
arguing with a college student.
Yeah. And this was a young, she's probably like a freshman or a sophomore, young black girl. And she at least was in relatively good faith. She was like trying to really have a conversation with him. It's not always like that.
Yeah.
And so he was being nice to her. But he basically asked the question eventually at the end of the conversation that he will often ask when people say that things are not fair in the society, in the social sphere, in the political sphere, this imbalance that exists, that they perceive exists between white people and black people, and about our privilege and all this sort of thing. And he just says to her, okay, can you tell me what you can do or what I can do that you can't do? Like, okay, if there's systemic racism and all the stuff you're claiming, society is holding me up and pushing you down. Explain to me how that's the case. And, here she is. She's a college student. She's one of the most in America in 2025. She's one of the most privileged people to ever live. And of course she couldn't come up with anything, but she immediately goes back to, but there's a history of the inequity that existed and the lack of opportunities for my grandparents and my great grandparents. And he's like, but what about you now?
Yeah.
What prevents you from doing anything that I have the opportunity to do? And she had no answer for that. But the point is that she immediately, when she realized that, she immediately, reversed gears and got into this new track that she's practiced 1,000 times that says, because my ancestors had a difficult time, you still have to pay. Even though my life is exactly the same as yours, because my ancestors had a hard time. That's that resentment. Again.
Yeah.
And it's been clearly trained into her. It's been beat into her.
What did Charlie say to that?
He just said, he kind of let her off the hook and said something like, I want you to think about, these few things, and then moved on to the next guy. Yeah. At some point you can't get anywhere.
What I would like to start to see happening with just like the way things are going is, like, I would like to see people, when they say things like, you owe us, I'd be like, I would like to see us getting like slightly more aggressive, not like physically, but just like, go fuck yourself. Like, I don't owe you anything. You already collect like an outsized amount of welfare and government aid, like for your amount of population. I know that this is like, you bring this term up with a lot of the people who it applies to, and it's very confusing for them per capita. The amount of your population, you're taking up way more of that sort of government aid than other populations, proportionally. So yeah, how much more do we fucking owe you? Like we've talked about this before in public schools and stuff like that. The dollar amount per head of students at bad schools is way fucking higher than it is in good schools.
20,000 per student in a public school.
Fucking insane.
Yeah.
But we're not spending enough money.
That's like $20,000 per pupil in elementary school is astronomical. Like when I don't know what it costs now, but when I was going to college, that was more than in-state tuition. $20,000 a year was more than what in-state tuition cost.
Yeah.
At a good school here, and we can't give kindergartners a good education with that money.
It's fucking insane, man. there's obviously a problem, but the amount of money that they're getting, I don't see how it's possible that that's it. When you look at school districts that are doing very well with significantly less money, something else has to be the problem.
I have a hard time thinking with $20,000, I could not hire a tutor.
Yeah.
Like they did in the Victorian age. And my kids would be able to speak 4 languages and play the
Thomas
goddamn
Jefferson.
violin.
Yeah.
Because think about it.
Writing Latin and Greek with both of their hands, you know?
Yeah, think about it. Like if I had for 3 hours a day a private tutor, one-on-one with my kids, they would have such a better education than you would ever get in public school. And part-time, $20,000 goes a long way part-time. I could hire a fucking PhD to come, tutor my kids.
Dude, the level of education that is required for a child to graduate in America now, you should just homeschool your kids, man, because you can do it. Like, you as a person, if you are not a dumb person and you have the time to be able, and this is the thing, saying if you have the time, you don't even have to have a ton of time, dude. If you are a fairly intelligent person and your kids are not like disabled, you should be able to teach them with a few hours a week. Like, honestly, like maybe 6 hours a week.
I agree.
And they're going to be fine. They're going to be doing better than the students in the public schools. Yeah. Sending kids to school is just like daycare, it's like, because we have to have 2 people working. So we have to do something with the kids. So we'll just turn school into daycare.
Yeah.
We'll turn it into this like 8-hour thing every day, 5 days a week. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't even know how we started talking about school.
We just, like I said, we waited out in the deep end.
The money in like the different.
Yeah.
I think if you can afford it, just homeschool, man. I feel like your kids will be better off.
I think you're right, man. I do homework with my kids when they get home, and the younger one is like the older one's easy. She does everything, she's asked without any lip. The other one's like constantly distracted. Like she's just a little bit ADD or whatever. She's constantly distracted, wants to do something else.
She's a pistol.
Yeah. Like I actually have no idea how, if she's like that at school, how her teachers can manage to teach her anything. But when it's her and me, she doesn't have a choice, Yeah. So it's like, I think with her, she probably would learn far more, from someone like me, a respected authority and disciplinarian. It's like, no, you're not allowed to do anything else. We're doing this until you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, one thing that you have told me that you realized is that kids are just like wildly different, and it's crazy to think that this one style of schooling is going to work for all of those types of kids. And it's like the way that you're describing your 2 daughters, it almost seems like your oldest daughter is a little bit typically more like a girl. And your youngest daughter, because the way school systems are set up now, it's like really bad for boys.
Yeah.
And it's like pretty evident in like culture right now. Way more women are going to college and getting college degrees. And I think that a lot of these feminist types would be like, well, it's just because we've like evened things out. And I guess women are just that much better than men, that like once we even things out, women
excel.
Like drastically excel.
Yep.
And I think that maybe when we equaled things out, maybe we went a little too far. Maybe we
always do.
Yeah, a little bit.
I did want to say I saw a story today about a woman in Connecticut. She moved here when she was a kid from Puerto Rico, and she graduated from like some Hartford Public High School somewhere.
Yeah.
And then now she's in college, and I can't remember what university she was in. I think it was University of Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, the story was about her being illiterate. She came here from Puerto Rico as a kid. She got past.
Oh, I think I saw this too. Yeah.
She got past every grade, graduated high school, couldn't read or write, gets into college, can't read or write.
And they're like celebrating it. They're like, this is brave. And, like, it's amazing. It's like, how are you making what is clearly a fail on every level of this girl's life into something to celebrate. You're like, this girl's parents failed her. This girl's grandparents failed her. This girl's aunts and uncles failed her.
Every teacher.
This girl's friends' parents failed her. Every teacher she ever had failed her. Her doctor failed her. Like, you know, like, and you're celebrating this now. The fact that she has been somehow promoted through school without being how did that happen? How did she make it into the second grade?
Exactly.
But somehow this is like a story of resilience. Like, what are we talking about? I just don't fucking understand it at all.
It's absolutely baffling.
Yeah, it's like a really bad trajectory. Like, you don't want to, that's not the kind of stuff you want to start glorifying, you know?
Well, like what it means is so fucking scary. It means everything you said about everyone failing her, and that's terrible. But it also means that there's something seriously wrong with the public school system in the United States. Like, if somebody admitted that they graduated high school and couldn't read or write, there should be an investigation and people should be fired. Yeah, like, lots of people should be fired. That is unacceptable. Mm-hmm. So you mean to tell me the teachers didn't teach her shit for 12 years and I can't even process it.
It's pretty dark.
And then the administration gives her a diploma? Like,
yeah, I want to know, when she graduated high school and they, like, on the stage, the ceremony, when they hand her the diploma, did they know that she couldn't read?
They must have. They must have.
Because, like, I've heard stories about that before where, like, people didn't ever learn how to read, but they are, like, they've got, like, intelligence, you know, they're not stupid people, and they, like, manage to, like, fake it all the way through, which I don't fucking understand. But like, how do you hand somebody a diploma that they can't fucking read the words on it? A high school diploma. That's insane.
What does she expect is going to happen in college? Like, I can imagine a scenario where a little girl from Puerto Rico comes over and maybe Spanish is her first language and she doesn't speak English at all or not well. Yeah. And, you know, maybe she's getting the benefit of the doubt, or she's getting, like, you know, teachers that are, you know, soft-hearted, and they're just, but at some point.
I can see that. I'm 100% with you. I can see that happening up until, like, maybe 5th or 6th grade, but eventually it's like, you gotta like learn to do this eventually, you know?
Like, who filled out her college application for her?
Yeah.
Who helped her with that? Because she couldn't do it herself.
Did she speak English? Do you know?
Yeah, she spoke English, and like you said, she seemed like intelligent enough.
Yeah.
But then they showed her a book, and, like, you can't read anything on it. She's like, no, it just looks like words to me. It just looks like a big bunch of words. It has no meaning.
Bunch of letters.
Yeah.
Bunch of grouped up letters.
What in the hell?
It's weird. Very weird. It's a crazy world we live in, man.
So.
Yeah,
you hear people criticize not only the failure of the public school system, which there's plenty of fair criticisms, but at the fact that universities have lost the respect in the same way is like a whole different thing, man. The fact that having a degree from Harvard today, it in many people's eyes is more of a warning sign than it is an accolade. It's like, this person made it through Harvard, you know, which means that they're a diehard lefty.
Yeah.
You know,
they're brainwashed.
They
went through the whole brainwashing thing.
And they may not be able to read or write.
Yeah.
The Derek Zoolander Institute for kids who cannot read good. What is it? I can't remember. What is this? A school for ants?
Oh, man. Yeah. I don't really know what else to say about that. You know, Trump doing all this stuff with the Department of Education, and all these lefties are, like, bent out of shape about it. It's like, why are you upset? Like, what are you basing your emotional reaction to this on? Because you can look at the history of education in the United States, and as soon as they institute the Department of Education, everyone gets dramatically stupider.
Yep.
So I just don't like it. I don't know what they're basing these things on.
Oh boy. Well, I've seen enough of that Common Core math to pull my fucking hair out. So
very weird.
Federal control, federal funding and federal control over curriculum is a fucking terrible idea.
Yeah.
Demonstrably a terrible idea.
I'll say this for like Common Core and different ways of teaching people math. If Common Core works for some people, good. That's fine. But mandating that you have to teach it Common Core, that's fucking stupid.
I told my daughter the other day that when I was learning math growing up, I never once had to draw a box, a series of boxes. I never once had to do any of these diagrams that she's doing. And she's just like, what? Like she's baffled. Like, whoa, what do you mean? Like, no, we didn't need it. We just stacked numbers on top and we added up the rows and it was fine. You know?
Yep. They say it's easier. I don't know. It doesn't seem easier to me. But
all right, so I can change the topic here. I got one for you. Maybe you can help me with. So I'm going to be going on the Onion Unlimited radio show / podcast. I don't know. I think he's more or less focusing on it as a radio program now.
Yeah.
So this is for those people who don't remember our buddy Daniel Torridon, who did the Onion Unlimited podcast and wrote a series of books, including Believing the Lie.
Renowned author and podcaster from Australia.
Yeah, from Great Britain, but now living in Australia. Anyway, I'm going on his radio program, and one of the things he does, he has little like segments to break up the music and stuff, and one of them is one of them is It Must Be True because I heard it on the radio, which is pretty funny. But the other one is called Strange But True, something like that. Strange But True. So I am trying to come up with things to talk about for this segment, Strange But True. And I have one that I just happened upon this morning that I think is pretty interesting. But do you have any good strange?
I would have to think about it.
Yeah,
just springing it on me. I'm sure that I do. I'm sure if I thought about that for a second, I could come up with something. But off the top of my head, especially like listening to you, it's hard to think about.
Yeah. So I'll give you one that I found out this morning that was pretty interesting. So you know how in the Victorian era, this is when like photography was new and it was a fad, and it was expensive. It's only rich people mostly had portraits. But one of the things about it, those old cameras, was that the exposure, if I flash a Polaroid, the exposure is like instantaneous. Yeah. But in the old days, they had a fucking blanket over their head and they're like, stand still. And it took like maybe it was like 2 minutes to expose. So you had to stand perfectly still for up to 2 minutes or whatever to get a clear picture. And it was so hard for like, especially kids, not to fidget around. They would do all kinds of weird things. Like they had these things that they would put behind the kids, and they would put their head in it so they couldn't move their head side to side while they were standing there, because the moment they move a little during the exposure, then you have a blurry image.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're talking about how not everybody could afford to get their picture taken. It was expensive and whatnot. But when you had somebody die in the family, they would oftentimes take portraits of the dead people, and that became a fad in the Victorian era in England.
They're definitely not moving.
Well,
that's very still for the.
That's the thing. There's all these family photos from the Victorian era. And it's like all the children, and one of them's got their eyes closed or something. It's like everyone's alive but the dead kid, and they're using the death of this dead kid as an opportunity to justify spending the money on this photo. And it may be the only photo these people will ever have is of their kids with the one dead kid. But anyway, the strange but true fact here is when you look at Victorian photographs, like a large portion of them they include dead people.
Yeah. And
how you can tell which one is dead and which one is alive is the only one who's clear in the image is the dead person. Everybody's blurry in the images except for the dead person.
Interesting.
Yeah, strange but true. That's all I got so far.
All right. Well, when do you have to go on?
I think it's next Friday.
All right. Well, I'll be able to come up with some for it to help you out.
All right. Yeah. If you have any good ones.
Yeah. That's cool though. I like that. Would you call that a theme?
Yeah. It's like a little segment.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call it.
I like it. I wish we could play music like that. He said that there's some kind of thing that you can do. Because I would love to do that.
Yeah. I'm sure we could get all the details, but I think it has to do with the fact that it's on the radio. You can play music on the radio without the rights to the music.
Okay.
Or maybe he has like permission to use it on the radio, like a radio station would. I don't know how it works. Either it's not required or he has special permission. But that's why he does it as a radio program.
Cool. Daniel Torridon's a cool guy, man.
Yeah,
he's doing all kinds of cool stuff.
Yep. and his hair's getting long like a hippie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice. Well, it's fitting. He's kind of a hippie.
Yeah.
I would classify Daniel as kind of a hippie.
Yeah. Well, I think he would agree with that, but I wonder, like, if because he came from this buttoned up Jehovah's Witness background.
J-Dubs.
Like, I wonder, like,
J-Dubs.
when did the hippie finally emerge? You know, maybe it was a part of this.
I think the inner hippie was always in there.
Yeah.
He's told stories on the podcast about, like, he'd be out doing, you know, the J-Dub missions, the side quests that they would give the Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah. You have to go out and talk to people. You have to go out and spread the word of Jehovah.
Yeah.
So he'd be out there doing that, and he'd be talking to, like, he said he was like talking to some Indian guy who ran like a convenience store or something.
Yeah.
The inner hippie was always in there.
Yeah, that's true.
He was always like Krishna.
Yeah, he's like, tell me about Buddhism.
Yeah, exactly.
I know I'm here to tell you about Jesus, our Lord and Savior.
Hare Krishna. I don't know if Daniel was ever Hare Krishna, but
in another life, for sure.
Spiritually, he's Hare Krishna, if that makes any sense. I don't know. You got anything else to say about that?
No, but if anybody's got a good, strange but true, twotonguespod@gmail.com, send it my way. Also, I wanted to tell you that we were talking at the beginning of this program about not editing anything and leaving the mistakes and all that.
Yeah.
And that's true. And that's always been true and always will be true.
We were like, editing's retarded. We don't, and now you're like, we're going to release some edited footage, some edited content.
We are. So the experiment was, there's a lot of people that do shit like I do on my solo shows on YouTube that just look a lot better than mine. They're more interesting to watch because they have images and animations and stuff. So I was like, okay, you know, how expensive is that to do? And what would it look like if we did? So I just took the last solo episode I did, and I just sent it to the guy that I work with for this sort of thing, and had one of his team edit the video. And so it was an interesting process. I'm just going to re-release one that we already released unedited, but I'll release
all fancied up.
Yeah, I'll release it and see how it goes. It was a little bit of a process. So like this guy who's doing this for me doesn't have any idea what the podcast is about or what my like preferences are, like what kind of aesthetic choices I would make. None of that. You know, he doesn't know any of that. So the first time it came back, I had to send it back with a bunch of requests. I had like 60 plus requests of revisions that I want to like make all these changes. I wasn't super picky because I did like a bunch of legwork. I put a bunch of images together and I sent them like, here's samples of some of the images that I would use to talk about these different things. Very few of those images were even used. He did a fine job, but I let a lot of shit go because I felt like I was being nitpicky after 60 plus revisions. There's some images that he used and animations he used that I definitely wouldn't have done.
Yeah.
Like as an example, I'm talking about the Sibyls, like the seer prophetesses from ancient Greece, and he uses that image from 300 of the Delphic oracle, which is an awesome image. I love it. And then I think before that image shows up, there's another version of that, which is like anime. It's like somebody had made an anime oracle, and I just left it. Like I like anime. Fine. It's fine. Yeah. It's fine. Right. I never would have picked it, but it's fine. And then like, there's one moment where, and I sent him maps, by the way, like maps that were perfect for shit, the shit that, you know, it should be used for, but he used a map. I started talking about the Indo-Europeans coming in and having these, you know, trade relationships and other things, like people are you know, spreading around the globe and they're trading with other people. So he used an image that's like, here's the trade routes kind of thing, but it was like an image from like a PC game, like a map of a fantasy world. Gotcha. You know, it's like I never would have done that. Yeah. So
that's fucking weird to me.
And I could have asked him to change it, but in the back of my mind, and I did, there's a couple images where I was like, swap it out for this one. Like, I don't like that. Partly I didn't want to be nitpicky, and partly I'm thinking to myself, like, maybe this guy's probably like in his 20s, whoever's editing this. It's like he knows more about, like, you know, the kind of images that are relevant to people. So I'll just let it go.
Yeah, I feel very different about that. I feel like it's very weird for a person You ever see the movie Robin Williams did called The Birdcage?
It rings a bell, but I don't know that I saw it.
So it's a movie where he plays a guy who owns a drag club in Miami.
Oh, geez.
And his son, because he has a biological son, is getting married to a woman who is the daughter of a conservative senator from Ohio.
Oh.
And they're coming down to meet, and the husband, or yeah, the son / future husband of the daughter he's like, we have to like change the house, you know, like they're coming, they can't know that you guys are gay. Nathan Lane, who is the guy, is Robin Williams' partner. It's like, you have to be in drag as a woman for this, you know. It's a funny fucking movie. But when they're redesigning the house, the son says to the person who's helping them, he says, don't add, just subtract, because the guy's adding like things that it's like, that still seems pretty gay, you know, like, but that's just what it makes me think of. Like, don't add. I gave you a bunch of images. These are obviously the images that I want in the thing. So the fact that he didn't use all of the images, or at least enough of them for you to like notice, like think maybe it's a big deal. And also for him to be adding things, I think that's very weird.
I was kind of asking him to do that. I was kind of like, look, like, what am I paying you for? If I'm giving you all the images, if I'm searching out all these images and telling you where they go, what am I paying you for? Like, I want you to do this.
Yeah.
Listen to the fucking episode and put it together. You know,
Gotcha.
That's what I think I'm paying for. Like, you know, so I thought I was being helpful by providing sample images. Like, this is the kind of thing you should be looking for.
Yeah.
He's like, let's put in some anime.
I don't know how much he's charging, and I don't know how much like because a lot of these people who are YouTubers, some of them edit their own stuff, but some of these people have people editing their footage for them.
Yeah.
Like, some people will edit some of their own footage, but then they have people that they hire to make like thumbnails for all the videos and things like that. And I just wonder like how much they're paying for that kind of stuff. And I'm sure that like really high level editors, it's probably not that, they don't make it that difficult to get what you want, you know, like really what you're looking for. But you know, who knows how fucking expensive. Honestly, I can't imagine that it's like that expensive.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Well, I'm just glad that I have the what do you call it? Like a project manager person that's like supervising, because like after I have the revisions to the video made, I get the other one, you know, like, okay, well, here's the next one to review. And, you know, there's some of these like effects that they add in, which is, some of it's cool. It's just like, you know, I'll be talking and it'll slowly zoom in on me for a second and that kind of thing. It's cool. But because the audio I use for the podcast, or the video I use for the podcast, is streaming, sometimes it'll freeze up. And then like, you know, so I'll be like stuck in a weird facial position for a second. And so there's a moment after the revisions were done where this happens. Like it's me on display rather than an image, my face, and it's frozen, and I look like a fucking idiot. It's like frozen with my eyes closed, and then it zooms in on it, and I'm like, how did you miss this? Like, fucking get rid of this.
That's so funny.
You know, that kind of thing. But it's an experiment, so we'll see. I'll probably post it soon and just see what the reaction is. If people like it better, maybe I'll try to do more of it in the future. But it's totally an experiment.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. It's like a cool thing to do if you've got like a big episode in your mind, you know. It'd be cool to. So like this one that you did, it was a pre-existing episode that you sent in. It would be cool for you to do one from the beginning with that intention, so that you could kind of like give him notes about how you want it to, you know, like the intentionality of having it be that kind of a video, like how you would structure it.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah. I think I would do things a little differently if I had that in mind. I don't know, man. Like I kind of see myself as like a storyteller. Like, I want to be a storyteller. I've always loved good storytellers, and I don't have like a lot of practice telling stories or telling jokes. Like, I'm not great at telling jokes, you know, but I'm trying to get better. So you know, I just love storytelling, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's what like Dan Carlin does so well, and Daryl Cooper does so well. Just definitely tell me a tale.
Yep. Yeah, I was trying to think of another like metaphor for tell me a story, but I can't. It's nothing's coming to mind. So, you been paying attention at all to what happened with that shooting at the Israeli embassy in New York?
Israeli embassy. I thought there was one. There was one in D.C. I thought.
Oh, was it DC?
Yeah, it was a couple of
Two people got
somebody killed
shot.
2 Jewish
Yeah,
people.
for some reason I thought it was in New York.
Yeah, I don't know the details. I thought they said something about it was at a museum, a Jewish museum.
I thought it was at the embassy for some reason.
Or was it
I'm all kind.
or was it an embassy employee? I don't
Maybe,
remember.
yeah.
Or maybe the museum is part of the embassy. I don't know.
Could be.
Yeah.
Two people got shot.
Yeah.
Two Jewish people. I know that there's some. The reason I thought it was an embassy is because there's some like official capacity in which maybe not like official as part of the government, but they were like a part of some kind of event that was going on at whatever this place was.
Yeah.
And yeah, they got shot by one of these Free Palestine protesters. Shot 2 people, two young Jewish people.
Yep.
So it's been interesting in the people talking about it on the news, on X. It's been a wide range of reactions to it.
Yeah.
People are, understandably, 2 people died. So,
are people saying that the rhetoric, the anti-Israel rhetoric or anti-Zionist rhetoric or whatever you want to call it, has incited this violence? Are people talking about that? Because the liberals love to talk about inciting violence as such a risk.
Yeah.
And they do nothing but talk about Jewish people in Israel as though they deserve to be destroyed. And then somebody goes out and shoots Jewish people, and you just wonder. I don't think they're going to agree that, because these are people that they disagree with, that this is a problem, but they're the ones that talk about inciting violence, and speech incites violence. And so we have a responsibility to control our speech. They're the ones that make that argument. I just wonder if somebody goes up and an upstanding citizen goes out and shoots 2 people because they're Jewish, and yells "Free Palestine," that violence has been incited by the news coverage and the narrative and the public narrative on Gaza and Israel.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, you think that it is incited?
I wonder. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it's incited in some ways. I think that it's incited. I think that, yeah, I guess it just depends on what you talk about, how you mean that, because there's a lot of people who are saying that people like Dave Smith and Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes and people who are critical of the state of Israel, that those people are just as guilty as the person who pulled the trigger. There are literally people saying that, which is, if I don't think that that's what you mean, but if that's what you mean, and you're listening to this podcast or whatever, fuck you. You're an insane person. And a lot of these people, like up until right now, were like free speech people. But when it's Jewish people, things are different. We have to play by a different set of rules because it's 2 Jewish people who got killed. So yeah, if that's what you mean, you can go fuck yourself. I'm not interested in that at all. But I do think that there are, like, first of all, the guy who shot the people, let's just put a bullet in the back of that guy's head. That's fine with me. I'm not like, there are some people online who are trying to hold this guy up as some kind of, like, what they did with that Luigi Mangione guy who killed the healthcare. Like, there are people who want to like hold this guy up as some kind of a hero. And I don't. I think that they should kill him. I think that and very unceremoniously put a bullet in the back of his head. We know he did it. We know he's guilty. Let's just kill this fucking guy. Yeah. Let's not do this court system thing for 20 fucking years. Let's just kill him. And I feel like that would, all of these Jewish people who were like, it's not safe to be Jewish in America. I feel like that would go a long way to maybe like assuage their fears,
Yeah.
Let's just cap this dude.
Yeah.
But this idea that we need to be like censoring people who are critical of Israel, that's fucking insane.
Insane. Yeah.
And there's a lot of people calling for this kind of stuff.
Well, somebody like Dave Smith is he's a libertarian. He's totally nonviolent in his perspective. How in the world would you put any of that on somebody like Dave Smith? Instead, I look at the corporate news, and I look at the pictures of all the dead children in Gaza, and the constant war crimes and genocide that you hear constantly. How many times do you hear that before not you, but somebody decides to take action into their own hands?
Well, you know what, man? I would never do that. Obviously, I'm Team America. I'm not going to go commit a crime and fuck my life over for some people who are not Americans. That would never, ever fucking happen. But I will say, the way that Israel and people who support Israel are acting about this shit in Palestine, man, it makes it hard to have sympathy for them, man, because do you happen to see the guy on X? His name is Misfit Patriot.
I don't think so.
He's a big time like shiller for Israel. He says, I don't care if every single child in Gaza dies. Like, if they all have to die, that's fine, And then there's there's footage of these kids who are starving. Like, they're like emaciated. They're fucking starving to death. Okay. And you've got these people who are online who are saying, oh, you're believing propaganda. That's not really happening. Okay. Well, for months, people have been saying that Israel has been destroying aid that's been like preventing aid from getting in. What happens when you prevent people from getting aid and food? They fucking starve.
Yeah.
They want to act like this all started on October 7th. They're like, if you didn't want this to happen, you shouldn't have done October 7th. But this has been a long thing, and it's way more complicated than that. And I'm not even saying that the Israeli people don't. I think Israel does have a right to defend itself. They have a right to exist, all of that stuff. But I think that what Israel is in the middle of right now is not necessarily a war that they're going to lose in like a kinetic sense, like they're not going to lose to the Gazans.
Yeah.
But they're losing this as a PR war. Uh-huh. They're doing a really bad job.
Yep.
Because they're making everything all about them. So like what's going on with the people in Gaza doesn't matter at all. It's like not a factor for them at all, which to some degree I can understand. But past that degree, I feel like they've gone past that degree by quite a bit at this point. Yeah, I don't know, man.
This is an interesting callback to the Right of Conquest we talked about a little earlier, because it seems to me that Gaza is conquered.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes, Gaza is conquered. People are going to go absolutely apeshit if Israel expands their borders and starts developing Gaza. They're going to absolutely lose their minds.
Which is 100% what Israel wants to do. Like, without question, that's what Israel wants.
So if you agree that might makes right, and if you can do it, then you can do it. And that's what Israel's doing. Gaza's conquered. Like, what's the argument at this point? Gaza's conquered. I don't really understand why the war is continuing, why any of this is happening. Like, soldiers should be marched in there, and if the goal is to subjugate, lock up these people or get them out of the country, if that's the goal, then just fucking start doing that. Like, do what you're gonna do, guys. Like, I don't understand why this is still happening.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I don't think that the international community, they don't seem like they're going to let stand right of conquest. They're not, the international community isn't going to recognize Israel's sovereignty over Gaza or the people of Gaza.
I feel like the world might be more sympathetic to it because, like I said, it's well documented in this podcast. I am not a huge fan of Israel. But I do believe in the right to conquest, essentially, to some degree. And I think that if they were to take it over, like you said, Gaza's basically conquered at this point. If they were to just take it, but it seems to me like they're insisting that everybody die. It seems to me like they want all of the people in Gaza to either die or be displaced,
Yeah.
And I just don't, I feel like that's a bit much, that seems to be a bit much for the world to accept, It was a bit much for the world to accept with America. We didn't kill all of the Indians, they still have casinos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The whole situation, I feel like I've seen people saying things like, once anti-Semitism rises, that like the entire culture is degraded at some point. And it's like, I mean, of course, it's a Jewish person saying that. Of course, it's either a Jewish person saying that or like a Christian Zionist person saying that. But like, what are you basing that on? Like, I just feel like that shows this kind of self-centeredness. Like they literally think that everything is about the health of Israel and the Jewish people. They can't help but think that way. I've seen tons of tweets like that.
So let's suppose that Israel succeeds in the speculated goal here that killing everyone or removing everyone is the goal. Well, let's suppose that this comes to fruition. Is that a victory for Israel? Like, Israel might, like I said, expand their borders and their defensive structures, expand the Iron Dome over that new part of conquered land, start developing and building it. I just think that the greater Arab world is their mortal enemy, whether Gaza exists or not, whether the people of Gaza exist or not, and getting rid of them doesn't solve that problem. And it creates a whole lot more people that are, willing to now act because they see the tragedy that occurred. Yeah. And I mean,
yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that some of the Arab states in the area have demonstrated that they're willing to work with Israel. But other ones, they're not so willing. And honestly, it's hard for me to blame them for not being willing, because look at what is, like, let's imagine that you're Iranian. Okay. Let's imagine being Iranian right now. How would you feel about Israel? Israel is beating the battle drums for the most powerful military in the history of the world to go to war with you. Like, Israel very clearly wants to influence us to go to war with Iran. That's obvious to anybody paying attention. So yeah, I can totally understand Iran being like, fuck Israel,
Yeah.
And the Israelis want to make it this thing of they just hate Jews, It's like, maybe it's just because they hate Jews, or maybe it's because you're fucking with everything, like, I don't know. I know that like religious tensions exist. I understand that. But there are Jews who live in Iran, and they're like, okay. I think they have like a pretty high quality of life. I don't think that things are really that bad for them.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder about that.
So I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's just because they hate Jews to me.
So
I'm not a supporter of Iran either. Just so we can get, I think, I don't think, I'm not like 100% opposed to a little bit more of like a conservative culture. But yeah, I don't.
Well, I think it's pretty clear that Islam has been a negative force in social progress, if those words can even come out of my mouth with a straight face, in Egypt and in Iran for sure, because I've seen those photos of in the 60s in Iran, and it's like it was like a first world country, and same thing in Egypt, and then you look now and it's just like Jesus, night and day.
What about it?
Well,
just like women in
burqas
and
women in burqas, the amount of like instability, like empty storefronts and just stuff that you don't see in first world countries. And you go back and look at these photos of terrain or whatever in like 1960s, whatever. It's just like,
Yeah.
it looks like America.
I asked because I don't really know what it's like in Iran. I know that women have to wear the Islamic garb, and I don't think that that's right, but honestly, I don't really care. If that was the extent of it, if it's like they're mean to women, I don't care. Like, unless they're like slaughtering women, if they're like, we're just going to kill all of them, like all of the women in Iran, we're just going to chop their heads off and we're going to be done with bitches in Iran. I would have a problem with that. But like, yes, I don't want American Western women to have to go around in a burqa, a full burqa. But I'm the kind of person, like, I think it's nice when women cover their hair when they go to church, because I love hair. Hair is like a beautiful woman's hair.
Yeah.
It's distracting, man. Like, it is. I just think that, like, the humility during certain things is nice. Like, I think it's good. It's good to not want to be the center of attention when you're at church. It's good to not, like, these people go all out and they're going to like a ball or something like that. No, humility is nice in certain situations, So yeah, I just don't really care. If there's other reasons, then sure, I'm not really down with Iran, and I'm sure that there are other reasons, but I just don't really know.
So some of this, I think I said to you before, not on the podcast. I don't think on the podcast, but stop me if I did. So I have this idea that's been circling in my head since I started listening to a bit of like Survive the Jive and some of that stuff. The Asha Logo stuff and some of that. Some of that stuff's been bouncing around in my head about how important blood is, how important family is and tribe is to be humanity, and how we've sort of forgotten or lost or become estranged from that in our modern world. And I look at Iran in particular, and I see Islam prevailing. And again, just based on that small evidence of those photos from the 60s or whatever, and how different it is today, that Islam has done great damage to the potential of the people of Iran and the nation of Iran and the economy of Iran and all that sort of thing. And what rubs me the wrong way about it is that the Iranians are not Arabs. So they have accepted a religion of a foreign people. They're under the thumb of the rules of this religion that doesn't belong to them, belongs to another people. And something about that just seems wrong. And it reminds me of like the Survive the Jive guy when he talks about being a pagan. And when people ask him why he's a pagan, he says, because it seems to me that the most appropriate way for me to have a relationship with the divine is in the way that my ancestors did. And it's like, man, I literally have chill bumps right now having just said that. And in Iran, you have these people that live a way that is, I want to say it's unnatural for them. They've taken on the yoke and the burden, and they're wearing a costume as a people, and it's holding them back. It's like it's not the religion of your people.
Yeah. And
I don't know, man. So I'll stop for a second, but go ahead. What do you think?
I just think that is. I think that is definitely like a moving sentiment for sure. I do think that if you follow it to a certain extent, people would say the same thing about Christianity.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing that I think is interesting is that Christianity was adopted by Europe, and Europe flourished under Christianity. I
think largely for a reason that we brought up earlier, because having a universal religion in Europe rather than tribal pagan religions that were competing with each other.
Yeah.
Now you have people who can look past their differences because they have a common overarching identity.
Yeah.
But you're not wrong that Christianity is seen as a Jewish religion, and that I
would argue against that, but
I'd like to do that actually. But white Europeans adopted, just like I described with Iran adopting Islam, white Europeans adopted Judeo-Christianity, a religion from a Semitic people, in the middle of nowhere, BFE, Middle East, we have no connection to historically, genetically, culturally, linguistically, and we adopt that.
I think some aspect of it has to be like the aspect of how Islam got to Iran,
True.
and how Christianity spread to Europe, because it's very different ways.
It's a good point.
Islam spreads in a very specific way.
Christianity spread by invitation.
Yeah.
Islam grew through the sword.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something.
That is something. So anyway, while we're on this topic, I said before, tell me if we talked about this in the podcast, as I don't want to necessarily repeat myself, but we talked before about this idea of Christianity having like a kind of a Greek
basis.
Yeah. And that Greece is part of Europe. And so there's a European angle to Christianity that's sort of separate. Like I think it follows the Gospel of John, and it's sort of separate from the the other canonical Gospels. But I learned a whole bunch of interesting shit listening to Gnostic Informant and some of these other people about the history of Jewish monotheism, and it's all really fascinating to me. The fact that there's a way of looking at Jewish monotheism as potentially an Indo-European idea. And I had, and this, like, I'm just saying this out loud because I trying to understand it, man. Like, something about that makes me feel better about being a Christian, in the way that I was sort of sneering at the Iranians adopting Islam.
Yeah.
It's like, I there's some part of me that wonders whether I've adopted the religion of a foreign people, and I'm wearing a costume, and I'm not being true to myself and my cultural heritage and my genetic heritage and all that stuff. But then I learned that the Yahwists are a greater group than just the Jews. They're a greater group than just Semitic people. That these people that worship Yahweh they go back a long way. And we have historical evidence of these people worshiping Yahweh that are not Jews. The Shasu in Egypt worshipped Yahweh. We know that. Then you've got these Greek references to a god called Yao, which I talked to. I think I don't know if we talked about on the podcast or not, but
we definitely have talked about that.
And then these these Philistines, these people that were in Israel, that were not Semitic people.
Yeah.
And then there's a historical argument that those are the people who worshiped Yahweh. They were the original people who came over and had this religion. And where the Jews, who weren't even Jews yet, who were living among Canaanite tribes in the north, who worshipped El. They didn't worship Yahweh then. They worshipped El. El and Yahweh aren't the same. They became the same, but they aren't the same. And so all of these things make me see the possibility that monotheism might have been a Mediterranean product of people in the Mediterranean, and not in the Levant. And that the Jewish people, the chosen Jewish people, may have adopted monotheism from an Indo-European group. And I don't know, the fact that that's a possibility makes me feel less guilty about being about accepting a religion that I've always been taught is not mine.
Yeah, I definitely see what you mean. I just like that kind of like guilt. I've never felt with Christianity, really. At least not since, like being open to Christianity being real. Since I've been open to that, I don't really feel that guilt, because, like, let's say that there's some tribe from Papua New Guinea, right? They're like one of these cargo cults, okay? And they're worshiping some stuff that is very obviously just like something from like the 30s or something, and then they find out about Christianity. It's like, did they give up their culture? Was that like bad of them to give up their culture? I see Christianity as like the greatest truth, of all the religions in the world. I think that Christianity is the greatest truth of all of them. So I just think that I don't really think that people should feel guilty, because I tend to like feel like that too. Like I want I like that connection to my roots, I
Mhm.
like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to give up something that is true because this other thing is like closer to.
Well, if it's true that Christianity supersedes religious boundaries, is truly universal, whether they say they are, we are. I consider myself a Christian. Then, if that's the case, then I agree with you. But there's still something that resonates when I hear people like what's the Survive the Jives guy's name?
I don't know. I forget.
God damn. Anyway, when I hear them speak of it, it's compelling, man. It
Yeah, for sure. I told you about both of those channels.
Yeah,
So
I know.
yeah, I know. I
and
like
then, and then there's the fact, while we're talking about this modern Israeli thing, then there's this idea of Europeans being of an Indo-European stock, and kin with other Indo-European people. Well, the Iranians are Indo-European people. The Jews are not. So along tribal lines, we should be supporting Iran and not Israel.
Yeah.
And then you get this caricature thing that comes into play here, and I don't know how much of a caricature it is, or but I'm going to call it that to be polite, of the Israelis manipulating the United States and the power that we possess militarily to get their ends. So we become a tool, and that's being used. And it seems like there's a certain interpretation that says, maybe we're victims in this situation to some degree, and we have more, like I say, more reason to be aligned with the Iranians than we do the Israelis. I don't know. I'm just speaking, but
Well, I know you were like kind of cautious about it there because you can't lay out the evidence, and I can't either off the top of my head. But the idea that America has been used by Israel in the past, basically since their inception, but like especially since 9/11. Again, I can't lay the evidence out for you, but if you want to go find the evidence, you can find it. That is 100% the truth. There's no way around that. That is definitely the truth. We've been doing everything that they want, and like there's document, like 100%. If you are interested, you should go look that up because it's chilling.
yeah.
It's real fucked up. You'd rather it not be the truth, that we're just like doing the bidding of some other country and just sending Americans over to die. Granted, in the war since 9/11, not a ton of our people died, but some of them fucking for sure did.
Yeah.
We spent tons of money. We've like bankrupted our country doing that shit. And it's all basically for what reason? Like all of the reasons, think about all the wars that we've been in since 9/11. For what benefit to America did we get? None. I can't think of a single fucking thing.
Very difficult. Yeah.
But I don't know. We're good.
But the propaganda, I'm just thinking about the freaking Ayatollah over there. And I don't know how much of propaganda this is, but it seems legit. The way that they're seen to portray the United States as the great Satan, and Israel as the little Satan or whatever. Like, is that true? Are they really saying that stuff? That's what you hear.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, where does that propaganda come from?
Yeah, where does that propaganda come from? Couldn't be kind of true. It's like, think about the ideas of the West and like what is going on in the West and has been. Like maybe it's starting to like, it seems like maybe the woke stuff is starting to die a little bit. But think about the trajectory that the United States and Western Europe have been on for the last 100 years. If I lived in a culture that was more conservative, I would call the West the great Satan too. We're cutting little boys' dicks off and, pretending that they're girls, and pornography's fucking everywhere. Gay marriage is normal. Like America and the West is a shit show.
We pay people not to work.
Yeah.
Call it disability.
Like calling the West the great Satan. I think that the West is the great Satan. I think that like we need some fundamental change. Like I feel like things have been going bad for a long time, and I feel like it's pretty obvious to everyone that if we don't start doing something to like reverse this, which is why people are excited about Trump and why I don't think Trump goes far enough. But yeah, if we don't start doing something to change this, things are going to get weird. You know, things are already weird.
Yeah.
And if they keep going,
if
bad stuff's going to happen.
If Trump hadn't been reelected, if Elon Musk hadn't bought Twitter, in 10 years, 15 years, projected into the future, I don't see the United States being any different than Europe. I would have expect that the social money we spend on social programs would have skyrocketed. We would have continued to bring in migrants, as many as wanted to come.
Yeah,
with no end in sight. We'd have been printing money to pay for all this,
which I think we're still doing.
You know, to some degree.
Yeah.
Like I just think we would our days would have been numbered for sure. And I agree with you to some extent that obviously moving in any direction opposite that, which having Trump in office is allowing us, is a reprieve to some degree. But is it enough? I'm with you in that respect. I don't know. I haven't seen anything that has happened so far that would prevent the next person coming in undoing all of this and considering it a hiccup and then going right back to the progressive program.
100%. I'm really worried about that because I feel like if they get back in power, they're going to use this little blip in them not having power as an excuse to like really buckle down on some stuff. And I don't think that's going to be good for people like me. And I just don't. I think we were already veering towards like an extreme form of censorship and like ruining people's lives for saying things. And I also think that with all the immigration and stuff like that, like if you have white kids, if you are a parent and you've got white children, you need to get your fucking head on your shoulders correctly and start like taking this kind of stuff seriously and not worrying about being called a racist. Because if you have children and things keep going the way that they've been going, it's going to be bad for your white kids, you know? And like, I guess people get like, they act like this is like racist kind of stuff to say. But I don't care. I care about white people, and I don't want white children. I don't think it's good that white kids and people get harmed. I think that's bad. So yeah, I think that we should start taking it seriously, and I hope that we do start taking it seriously.
So that this idea, this sort of language idea that when the woke stuff started and the being called a fascist or being called a Nazi or Hitler was like, mic drop moment, it was so effective. The fact that that's not the case anymore is super refreshing. But I think maybe it needs to happen with the word racism. Like when people say, "Oh, you're a racist," people need to just say, "Okay."
Yeah, I think that is kind of happening. So
if the power gets removed from that, and the way that, I don't know if maybe it was you, the way that I've heard that explained, and I don't know how good of a job I'm going to do to recapitulate it, but the idea is people are being called racist for things that, 10 years ago, 15 years ago would have been laughable to suggest that you were racist because of it.
Yeah.
That's just the way that it's become. And even if you say something like, I have preferences, I have aesthetic preferences. I don't want to date a black woman. For the same reason I don't want to eat mesquite barbecue chips. It's not my taste.
Yeah.
Well, you could easily be called racist for that today. But if you say, well, if it makes me racist that I have a preference, then so be it. I guess I'm racist. If everybody just said that, then it would have no power anymore. And I think that's necessary, man.
Yeah.
It's gone so far that it needs to lose its power.
Yeah, I agree. I was just thinking the other day that like, think about how if you're in, like, I work in a metal shop, it's 99.9% guys. And like people tease each other, you bust each other's balls. It's maybe a little bit less like this now because it's 2025 and people are fucking sensitive.
Mhm.
But think about like back in like the 90s, it's like this fucking guinea, this Mick.
Yep.
Honestly, I think that black people need to be that comfortable with the N-word, like to where if you say to an Italian person, this fucking guinea, he doesn't care. He thinks it's funny.
Mhm.
You're all busting each other's balls. I feel like black people, that's the level that you guys need to be comfortable with the word. Otherwise, you're not fitting in, because that's how, like I said, that's how men treat each other. That's how people, it's, again, Mick, WAP, what do they call it? Limey bastard. This limey cunt, the
Yep.
English. That's what you do. It's like, it's camaraderie. It's like a social
fucking
thing.
eye tie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got that's what I want from you. Get over it.
It's funny because it's such a weird double standard and a weird anomaly. That's how you know it's fucking fabricated.
Yeah.
Because black people are super comfortable saying it. They say it to each other constantly.
Yeah.
They have no problem with the word. It doesn't elicit any reaction. But
True.
the moment they hear it coming from someone too pale, then it's not just a problem. It's a fucking world-ending problem. How dare you?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen naturally.
Yeah, that's some kind of manipulation, some kind of like long-term.
It almost makes me wonder why and who perpetuated this thing and made it. Was it black people? Was it white people? Like who?
Who is it always, Chris? I'm just joking.
It's like they're choosing to carry around
the communists,
a bruise,
the Bolsheviks
that can be pressed, and it hurts so bad it justifies anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't touch the bruise. It justifies anything. I'm gonna wreck your gas station.
And the fact that they're like that has made it to where people like coddle them. It's like, I don't know if you've noticed, but since all this racial tension on like X and things like that, there's lots and lots of videos of like A, fights, and B, black people just wilding out, like causing scenes all over the place. And I wanted to watch some of those on YouTube. So I went to YouTube, and I went to the search bar, and I put black people getting arrested. No search results, no suggestions at all.
What?
Yeah, I type in white people getting arrested. Yeah, sure. They'll suggest that in the search term, and you can find some videos. But yeah, I guess they delete them off of YouTube. Like I get videos of black people getting arrested, or at least if that's how you phrase it, you like make it specifically that a black person is getting arrested. They like take that off.
Wow. That coddling thing is an interesting idea because I'm a father, and I see the consequence of coddling. Coddling is something that is appropriate for a baby, but to treat an adult like a baby is a fucking problem. You're going to create a spoiled brat who nobody likes.
Yeah.
And I just, do with that what you will.
Yeah. We got a bunch of spoiled brats.
I mean, is there a certain percentage of the minority population? I'll just be general and say the minority population in this country that thinks they deserve something because of their color.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them that do. And that is not an appropriate idea for an adult to hold. It just isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's because of my color, but I guess maybe it's just because I'm an American. But I will be honest with you. I think that white people whose ancestors have been here for like hundreds of years are more American. I'm just going to be like perfectly honest with you. Yeah, if you had ancestors who came over here and didn't come here for like a social handout, they wanted to come and like make this a country. Yeah, I think that they're more American. Yeah, I do.
I do. Yeah, sure.
So
that's a weird way of putting it, but I would agree. When we talk about America as a nation, the settlers and those people who built it are more American than the Native Americans who were here the whole time and, live on a reservation or are protected from our laws and have their own. Are they?
No, they've separated
They've
themselves.
separated themselves.
Yeah. And,
which the Jewish people have done by insisting that they're chosen
throughout history.
And, there was, I don't know where I was going. There was one other item I was going to add to that, but anyway, sorry.
Yeah. What? I mean,
I was going to say black people.
What about them?
They hold themselves out. It's almost like a lack of assimilation. In a similar.
They definitely separate themselves.
They separate themselves. Yeah. They have their own language. They have their own,
style,
culture, style. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Own foods. Own. Just everything. I don't fucking know. And I don't really want. I mean, this maybe sounds worse than I want it to. I don't want any part of it.
Yeah.
Like rap music, I don't like it. Like there's really, I guess there's some like black foods black culture foods that I'm down with.
Listen,
I love fried chicken. I'll eat fried chicken with the best of them.
I'm totally okay with America being a cultural melting pot and us all benefiting from each other's cultures.
That's maybe a bit much for me.
But there has to be an assimilation. You cannot hold yourself to be separate from everyone else in every way. There has to be at least one way that's critically important that unifies us. If we don't have that, we're not a community. We're not a nation. We're a bunch of strangers. We're a bunch of tribes. And that's not what we want.
Yeah.
But that seems like what the progressives and leftists want.
Mm-hmm. You see that in England, they're maybe like reversing that a little. Even the liberal guys who was the prime minister, Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
He's like, maybe we should dial the immigration back a little bit.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. I just feel like these people are starting to see what time it is, that like eventually things are going to get bad. And then the native population is going to get upset. And I feel like it's not going to work out well for them if the native population gets too upset, So they have to like hedge their bets a little bit.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's a good chance that Keir Starmer is out there saying that and that nothing is really going to change, that they're going to give lip service to bringing the immigration down, but they're not really going to do much,
It's a possibility. Having a homeland is important, right? To have a place where you're the majority population, to have a place like that. You said earlier that if the locals, how did you put that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I guess what I'm saying is,
what's like the gist of what I said?
I'm coming back to maybe a pro-Israeli statement by saying that it's important for us to have a place where we're the majority. Because if shit gets crazy, like we're bringing in a bunch of refugees and they start to, cause all kinds of damage, that we can put an end to that because we're the majority.
Yeah.
It's important to have a place where what you want, is the will of the people.
Yeah.
And can be enforced. And, but that's why the state of Israel exists, so that the Jewish people have a place where they're the majority, where they can, where they can.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely understand what you mean, but I also think that place was not theirs. Like you go back 100 years ago, that place was not theirs.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, again, like we were talked about earlier, I think that they have it right now, and if you can get them off of it, then I guess you can get them off of it. But they're pretty tough, like Israel is not a joke by any stretch of the means. I do think that Israel maybe struts around like they're a little bit bigger than they are because we've been their hammer for the last however fucking long. I think that if we were maybe a little more judicious with our support for Israel, maybe Israel would stop puffing out their chest so much.
I think that's probably true.
Which I would love to see. I would fucking love to see that. But like you said, that thing about having a place that is, for you to be the majority, I think that that's true. That is obviously good. And the Jews have that in Israel now. I think that Israel has the right to have that place and defend it now because they're on it now. You know, I don't think that the fact that they have it now means that they get to walk around and act how, like, if you fuck around with the people of the world too much, they might all turn on you. And I don't think that you have the right. I don't think that Israel has the right to be a dick to everyone and expect America to solve all of its fucking problems.
Yeah,
you know?
sure.
I think that they need to fucking work on that. You know, that's kind of where I'm at.
You know, when you said that, it dawned on me that even though Israel has conquered Gaza, they have the right of conquest there. They didn't conquer Palestine; they were given it, right?
Yeah.
So, do you think things would be different with the Palestinians and the Arabs that surround it if Israel would have legitimately conquered it militarily?
I mean, I think that in a lot of ways they really did conquer it militarily. Like, they went down there and it was like mandated to them from the British government. And, so I guess that's how they initially came to be there, but they like fucked a bunch of people up to, they basically did conquer it militarily.
They did. Like, wasn't it like in the 60s and 70s, multiple wars?
Tons of them. Like,
all the Arab countries all around them.
From 48 to now, it's just like been constant military intervention by Israel. It's like every few years there's some thing, so
boy.
And I don't think that they would be so ballsy if they didn't have us backing them to the degree that we are. And I don't think we should. I would love to stop.
I think you're right, man. I think if Israel didn't have U.S. military might and resources, backing them up, first of all, I don't think they could do the things that they've done, and I think they would have a reason to be much more careful about how they deal with the people around them.
Yeah. Again, like I said, I don't think Israel's a joke. Israel's a very impressive nation with a very impressive military. Their capabilities are better than pretty much everyone around them, but they're outnumbered by a lot. So be careful, try not to be too much of a dick.
Yeah. This reminds me of having a big brother.
Yeah.
And walking around the hallways in school and knowing that you've got the big brother there, and you kind of get away with a certain amount of fuckery because your big brother's there and people know that. And then he goes off to the high school building and I'm left there all by myself. Like, things are a little different at that point.
Not so tough now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the analogy that I see.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. Well, it's been 2 hours, Kyle. I don't know if you have to pee as bad as me.
I don't have to, but
any final words?
Don't do drugs.
Stay in school.
Yes, indeed.
Peace.
Well, there you have it. That's one avenue explored, but infinitely more still to go. I hope you enjoyed thinking along with us. I know. It's not easy work. Thinking. It's hard and full of uncertainties, but I'm grateful for the company as we trek through this together. Here's to hoping that the juice is worth the squeeze. See what I did there? Let's find out together in the next episode.